going on, everybody? It's Terrortop coming at you with a brand new video, and just the other day, I released to y'all my Goblin Biker deck profile for the October 2024 format, post the support out of Rage of the Abyss, and I said that if that video hit 100 likes, I would release a separate combo tutorial video to show off some of the combos for the deck to go along with the brand new list, and y'all absolutely destroyed that goal in, like, not even a day. Like, it was really crazy. I always love seeing those goals get hit super fast. I might actually try to up the number from now on because 100 just seems to be too easy for y'all. But I am a man of my word, of course, so I am here to bring to you some combos. I'm going to be showcasing 3 different combos, if you can see that there, of what this deck can do, and somewhat like the very typical end boards that this deck sets up, because it's pretty samey, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I'm only showcasing 3 combos to show off different starters and different hand setups. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into my Goblin Biker combo tutorial for the October 2024 format, post Rage of the Abyss. So to start off, I didn't really want to go into like any sort of improvised combos, you know, like when you can literally just make a rank 3 with the things out of your hand and then see where it goes from there. I wanted to start with some more of the set combos utilizing specific cards, more like 1-card combos for the most part, because this deck has a lot of them. And starting off, we're going to go with my favorite one, that being Speedroid Terrortop. Terrortop is super simple but super effective because it has a lot of uses, both as a starter and also technically as like a nib prevention piece, because if you open it plus another 1-card combo or set of cards to get you into your main combo, you can actually utilize it to make things such as Gossip Shadow in order to prevent your opponent from hitting you with a nib, and then still have all of your other plays. But the big thing I like about Terrortop is that it doesn't take up your normal summon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the combo, doing what else but special summoning Terrortop because we control no monsters, using the effect to add Terrortop board to your hand, and then specialing the Terrortop board because you control a wind. I know, it's getting a little bit heated here, but just stay with me. It might be a little too difficult for some of you out there. But now we have 2 level 3s on board, so we're going to use the Terrortop engine to make our first rank 3, that being our Goblin Biker Big Gabonga. Gabonga is, of course, like the main thing you want to go into at the very beginning of all of your combos outside of a Gossip Shadow, because it's going to start basically all of your Goblin plays. So Gabonga is going to trigger on summon to add a Goblin monster, and we're going to add our Goblin Biker Doug Charger. Doug has the effect to detach a material from a monster on the field in order to special himself from the hand. Doug then triggers on summon in order to search for a Goblin Biker spell or trap. This lets us add a Goblin Biker Grand Entrance from our deck to our hand. Next up, we're going to utilize this Grand Entrance. Grand Entrance is a Rhoda for any Goblin monster, which allows us to add our Goblin Biker Clattersploder, and then optionally we're allowed to detach a material from a monster on the field to special a level 4 or lower Goblin from hand. So we're going to detach the Terrortop, doesn't matter which one we detach first, let's be real, to special the Clattersploder from the hand. Clattersploder will not be live here because there is no Goblin Biker in our graveyard to summon, or I guess Goblin Monster period to summon, but that's going to come up later, don't worry. So next, we're going to take our Clatter and our Doug to make another rank 3. And in this case, we're going to be making our Xyz Armor Torpedo. I guess I don't have to put it up there. I usually put it up there because we're not making IP and it saves up space in case we want to make a Shuriken, but I can probably leave it down here and be just fine. So we're going to utilize our Xyz Armor Torpedo for the wonderful effect to draw 1 card, and that is going to be really huge because now we're back at 5 cards in hand, and we get a 6 on our opponent's turn off of the Gossip Shadow. Next we do the sensible thing and turn our Xyz Armor Torpedo into an Xyz Armor Fortress. Fortress has the effect to detach any number of materials, or I guess up to 2, I suppose, to add Xyz Armor cards from deck to hand, up to the number, or equal to the number of materials detached. So we're going to add the full armored Xyz. In some instances, you will literally just set this and pass from here, utilizing Gabonga's end phase effect, whatever, because you have to use the full armored Xyz effect to go into the Dark Knight Lancer. But the cool thing about Goblin compared to a bunch of other decks is that you can actually utilize the materials under the Dark Knight Lancer and still get the Xyz summon on your opponent's turn. So we're going to turn the Xyz Armor Fortress into the full armored Dark Knight Lancer. So now, again, you might think we just sit here and keep going on the opponent's turn, but remember we actually have Goblin Biker Grand Entrance. Grand Entrance allows us to banish it from the graveyard and then detach a material from a monster on the field to optionally add a Goblin from our graveyard to our hand. We're going to detach the Fortress to add back Clattersploder from our graveyard to our hand. And this is really huge because, again, we did not use our normal summon for this combo due to Terrortop specialing itself. So that means we can go normal summon Clattersploder here, utilizing the Clattersploder to summon back the Doug from the graveyard, And now we have another rank 3 that we can go into, typically something like a Bamboozling Gossip Shadow. Remember to utilize your Dark Knight Lance's effect to add an Xyz armor card from your graveyard to your hand. I like to put the Fortress back into the extra deck. It actually does come up as a 2500 beater that you can stack for additional materials to detach from later on in games, so it is pretty important that you put it back with Dark Knight Lancer while you have the chance to. And then you set your full armored Xyz, and with that you pass turn, and this is still not the end of the turn, because Gabonga has the effect during the end phase to attach a Goblin from your deck to it as material, and we're going to attach the brand new Goblin Bikers Gone Wild. Gone Wild is really huge, and it's mainly because of the sequencing of this turn, because this combo doesn't just end with your turn here, because you do have to kind of play the line out on your opponent's turn a little bit. Typically, say you're playing against something like Snake Eye, and they want to shotgun something like a Diabell Star or a Snake Eye Ash, you can utilize your Bamboozling Gossip Shadow in order to have both players draw one card instead. Doesn't matter what you draw here, I'm kind of just flipping stuff all over the place. And that will put you at 6 cards in hand. Your opponent will go back up to 6 cards in hand as well, or I guess technically 5 because of the card that they played. But regardless, this can draw you into more hand traps, which is always really good. But the big thing here is that you needed to put the Goblin Biker Clattersploder into the graveyard. And keep in mind, at any point while you're detaching materials from your monsters, you're going to be able to trigger Gabonga to attach something as material. So bare minimum, that's 2 disruptions here. We've had the Negate as well as a Gabonga to attach. But now our Clattersploder is in graveyard. And with Clattersploder in graveyard, we can utilize its effect to detach the Gone Wild at any point during the main phase to special itself from the graveyard. Not only does this allow Clattersploder to target the Dug to special summon it back to our side of the field and trigger a search, but we get to trigger the effect of the Gone Wild now in the graveyard to attach any card on the field as material to Gabonga, making this disruption number 3. And remember, again, Dug does get to add something from your deck to your hand. I typically like to add another Grand Entrance here for follow-up, so we're now at 7 cards in hand on the opponent's turn. And now, we can utilize the full armored Xyz on the opponent's turn in order to Xyz summon on their turn, taking the Clattersploder and the Dug Charger, and turning them into something like a Cicada King. So that is now another disruption. So we've had Gabonga, Gone Wild for another Gabonga attach, Gossip Shadow, and Cicada King as an imperm, and then at any point during the turn, we can use the full armored Xyz to banish, equip the Torpedo to any of your Xyz monsters on board. I typically like to go with Gabonga because I like having the Gabonga for follow-up. And now, that's a 5th disruption off of Dark Knight Lancer by attaching any monster your opponent controls as material, and now your Gabonga is massive, has targeting protection, destruction protection once, and has an Armades effect if it battles. And again, that's not to mention the 7 cards you still now have in hand, one of which being guaranteed follow-up. And this comes from essentially the most basic 1-card combo in the deck that isn't utilizing just a bad start like Grand Entrance or Dug or Gone Wild. We still haven't even gotten to the best starter in the deck, and I'll show you in the next combo. Now, Combo 2 utilizes what is technically the quote-unquote best starter in the deck, and that's going to be Tour Guide from the Underworld. And I really like Tour Guide because not only is it, of course, a great starter, but it's a really great way to throw your opponent for a loop. Tour Guide is so crazy nowadays because instead of just playing Burning Abyss or something like that, there's so many different decks that you could be on that your opponent might be like concerned about. Because against certain decks, I mean, hitting the Tour Guide can just completely stop them, and then against other decks, it kind of just doesn't do anything. So it's like, oh, what could they be playing? Are they playing Yubel? Are they playing Unchained? Are they playing some other kind of Fiend variant? Probably Fable is going to use this, I don't know. But they don't know that you are on Goblin Biker, which makes it a lot more fun, and you get a lot of use out of the effect of Tour Guide by getting a Mean Merciless in your graveyard, and I'll explain as we go through. So of course you're going to start by normal summoning your Tour Guide, activating her effect to special a Fiend from your deck, specialing the Mean Merciless directly. And now what else are you going to do but overlay both of these into a Goblin Biker Big Gabonga, and I just realized I did not have this organized. Of course, we're going to trigger Gabonga here in order to add our Dug Charger from our deck to our hand. Activating Dug Charger, we're going to attach the Mean Merciless to special it from hand. Activating Dug to search for a Grand Entrance. Grand Entrance to search for a Clatter. And then utilizing the Grand Entrance to detach the Tour Guide to special the Clatter from hand. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But then now we do get to utilize the Clatter to special summon the Mean Merciless from the graveyard. And I mean, if they have Nib, by the way, they have Nib. There's not really much you can do about that in this case. A lot of the time, playing against Nib, if you're not playing after it with something like a Breakout, which I will not be showing in this video, it's kind of something you just kind of have to pick up and kind of free flow with. The only way to otherwise to play around Nib is to go for the Gossip Shadow by having an extender such as Terrortop, Emergency Teleport, etc. Regardless, we're going to take both of our Goblins here. Doesn't really matter which two other than Mean, at least bare minimum. But we're going to take probably the Mean and the Clatter, and we're going to go into the Xyz Armor Torpedo, utilizing Xyz Armor Torpedo, detaching 2 in order to draw 1 card, going into the Xyz Armor Fortress, Fortress effect, detaching in order to search for the full armored Xyz, Fortress into the Dark Knight Lancer, utilizing, instead of the Grand Entrance here, this is where things get a little bit different, we're actually going to utilize the Mean Merciless, detaching from the Dark Knight Lancer to special herself from the graveyard. This is like one of the only ways that this combo actually differs. So we're going to go Dark Knight Lancer, put back the Fortress, always remember to do that, and then take the Mean and the Doug and turn them into a Gossip Shadow, setting the full armored Xyz to your side of the field, and end phase, utilizing the Gabonga to attach the Goblin Bikers Gone Wild. Again, very, very similar concept here. This combo is actually slightly better, though, in quotes, not because, like, you don't use your normal summon, that's why Terrortop is better in certain situations, but it's better because it gets the Mean Merciless live, which is good to have for follow-up turns, and also you get to keep the Grand Entrance in your graveyard, so that you can have that for follow-up later, and instead of grabbing a Grand Entrance on the opponent's turn off of Doug when you summon it off of Clatter, you might be able to go for something like a Breakout instead, or even your Grand Bash a little bit early. That's it for the Tour Guide combo. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit more of an unconventional combo. So this combo is a little bit more of an unconventional one. So what happens if your only starter in hand is specifically Goblin Biker Grand Entrance? Now, I know that it seems a little bit, like, weird, but Grand Entrance is actually a full combo now, and it's pretty solid. Say the rest of your hand is, like, a bunch of hand traps, such as, like, Nib and Imperm and stuff like that, that you can't really utilize for, like, any sort of combo plays, and you only really have a Grand Entrance. Before, this was, like, a death sentence. Like, you would literally go Grand Entrance, grab Doug, grab the continuous spell or another Grand Entrance just to stall a little bit, and pass turn. But now, you actually have a few different things that you can go for. We're going to start off by utilizing the Grand Entrance to search for the brand new Goblin Bikers Gone Wild. And this is one of the only times where actually starting off with a Gone Wild is good, because having the Grand Entrance in the graveyard is super important, which you will see in the combo. We're then going to normal summon the Goblin Bikers Gone Wild. Because we control no monsters, we can normal summon it without tributing. Utilizing the effect in order to special summon a Goblin monster from the deck, we're going to summon our Goblin Biker Doug Charger. Doug Charger will activate to search for a Goblin Biker spell or trap, but we've already gone through Grand Entrance, so we're going to grab the brand new card, Grand Breakout. Breakout is an amazing quick play spell that says, on activation, tribute 1 monster to special any Goblin monster from the deck, at the only cost being that it can't attack that turn, and we're going to tribute the Doug Charger to summon the Goblin Biker Clattersploder directly from the deck. This will trigger the effect of Clatter, targeting the Doug Charger engraved to special summon it back. And now we have 2 level 3s on board, we can go straight into our Goblin Biker Big Gabonga. This is going to trigger the effect of Gabonga to search for a Goblin Biker. So we're going to add, or I guess any Goblin to be fair technically, but we're going to add a Goblin Biker Boom Mock. This is definitely one of the parts where it becomes a little bit unconventional, because Boom Mock being utilized like in a combo line instead of just being there is pretty interesting. But we're going to utilize the effect of Boom Mock in order to detach a material from our Big Gabonga, and we're going to special it from the hand. And after you summon the Boom Mock, you can actually utilize the Goblin Biker Grand Entrance, this is why it's super important, to detach the other material off Gabonga and add back the Doug Charger to hand. Now, you might be wondering, I mean, what are you going to do from here? You have no materials on Gabonga, you could go for a really jank Xyz Armor Fortress line, but then that'll get rid of your Gabonga, you already used Clatter, you can't bring the Gabonga back, yada yada, what are you going to do? Well, remember that Gabonga says that if a material is detached from a monster on the field, you can actually target any monster on the field, not just an opponent's monster, and attach it to it as material. And after going through rigorous testing, I realized that this Gone Wild in the specific combo line doesn't really do anything. So after we utilize the Grand Entrance in a new chain, we can trigger the effect of Gabonga to attach the Gone Wild to it as material. Now we have a material live to utilize the effect of Doug in hand, detaching the Gone Wild to special it from the hand, because remember we did special it off the Gone Wild, we did not use the detach to summon, And now we can go for our typical combo line. We can turn these into an Xyz Armor Torpedo. Torpedo can draw a card, doesn't really matter what it is. And then we can go Torpedo into our Xyz Armor Fortress. If I can find it, there we go. Fortress effect, detach, search for the full armored Xyz, go into the Dark Knight Lancer, and now we get to set a card. And during the end phase, we get to use Gabonga to attach something like a Mean Merciless. We're not playing the second copy of the Gone Wild, if you may have seen in the deck profile if you've seen it. But I guess if you were playing a second copy, during the end phase, you could go for the Gone Wild, sorry. But other than that, this is a very simple Goblin Biker combo line. This card's technically in hand. You have 5 cards still left in hand. You have an okay amount of follow-up, especially if you attach a Mean Merciless to the Big Gabonga. The only difference from this to the other combos is that you have 1 less disruption, because you're only going for the Gossip Shadow or the Cicada King, not both. And that is going to do it for my Goblin Biker combos for October 2024. Really hope y'all did enjoy. I know some of you might have been expecting like a few more combos or some like maybe more in-depth stuff, but this deck is really simple at the end of the day, y'all. I mean, there is a lot of nuance when it comes to board states, especially against Xyz decks, because you can utilize their materials as well. But a lot of the time it's, can you make a rank 3? Cool, you can full combo, and there's not really very much to say outside of that. It's mostly just like certain sticky hands such as the Grand Entrance, where you kind of have to make up an idea of how you're going to actually get the ball rolling. But regardless, I hope y'all did enjoy, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, as it helps put this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended. And if there's something more like it, like some more combo tutorials, deck profiles, etc., then perhaps consider subscribing and turning on notifications if you haven't already, because support your channel more than anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, in a story directly, you can get some awesome TCG merchandise in the process. Check out Tapioca's link down below. Use code Aurora5 for 5% off your purchase at checkout, and supporting financially. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon down below to check out my $1 and $5 tiers to see what you can get. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.